Hi, I'm Matt Greenhouse with NASA's James Webb Space Telescope project. I'll be talking about the James Webb Space Telescope mission.
Kind of like a primordial Earth, sort of like an older Earth prior to a lot of the life forms. Like there are large-scale mountain ranges and huge lakes and whatnot.
As a kid, I was always interested in anything related to space, so I would constantly be reading books about the solar system.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining today. It's great to have both of you. I'm excited because I'm sure it's going to be a very valuable session, as today we have Dr. Vandna, the principal of BCM school, and we have Miss Kat, our international educator with more than 30 years of experience in this industry. Would you like to also introduce yourself? Anyone can start.
Yeah, sure. Should I?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm Dr. Vandna Shahi. I'm the principal of a senior secondary school in India. It's in Ludhiana, state of Punjab. And our state, it is famous for hosiery industries. I'm in the woolens. And it's great to be a part of this particular webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Vadni. I'm Kath Jama. As you can see, I'm an educational advisor and consultant in the UK, but I've also worked in Ghana, in 2 different parts of Ghana, and in Cairo as a principal in an international school over there.
Great, thank you so much for introducing yourself and sharing it with us. As I'm sure both of you have many years of experience in education system, I'm curious to know about your journey to become an educator. What made you to choose this path?
So this time start with you.
I was going to say I shall start this time. Yes, why not? So my educational journey started from when I was at school myself, in primary school. I think maybe you call it elementary school. And I looked up to my teachers as role models and wanted to be like the best teachers. I was the first person in my family to go to university, and then I wanted to offer education as a way to meet your dreams to children and students. So I became a teacher in the UK and then a school leader. And then, as I said, my journey took me to Ghana. And I was privileged enough to work with an underprivileged community where not everybody had access to education in the same way that I know that I had growing up. So I wanted to support that community to help particularly girl children and children with disabilities. And then from there, I moved to the south of Ghana to an international school. So quite a different demographic of students and parents. But I was able to share with those students my experiences of working in a community, an underprivileged community, of which many of them didn't even have any idea, even though it was their own country. So I was able to enlighten them and help their fellow country people. And from there, I moved to be a principal in a school in Cairo, an international school in Cairo. And then after a few years there, came the lockdown, came the COVID, and that's why I was there. And then moved back shortly after to the UK, which is where I am now.
So thank you so much. Very nice to know about you. So talking about myself, I always wanted to be an educator. But I started my journey with a college. I was teaching the senior students, but I was always carried by the innocent smiles of smaller children. So wanted to be there with them. So once I had my own children, so I went to put them in a school, and I was completely fascinated by, seeing the environment, atmosphere in a particular kids' school. So then I thought of being there in the school. But slowly after 3-4 years, then from a teacher and educator to I became the administrator and then the principal. And I was very lucky because I was getting the complete feedback at home itself, because my kids were there in the school, and that helped me a lot to improve my school, because I got to know about the kind of expectations that the children are having from the teachers, from the principals, from the schools. And this is how it started and how I traveled 26 years in this education sector. Couldn't know about that. Thank you so much.
Very beautiful, incredible. It's obvious that both of you are passionate about education, and I'm sure that children who are working with you are very happy at your schools. But of course, as you mentioned, Dr. Vandna, during the pandemic, the education system changed and it had to adapt itself to the new methods of teaching. And you mentioned that because you also had your own kids at home. So I would like to know, how did you overcome the pandemic and manage the situation at your own school? You are muted.
Okay, Mubina. First of all, my kids are grown up now. Both of them, they are working. They are. My son is in London, and my daughter, she's working in India itself. So now they are grown up, but still I am there only. They have passed, but I still am there in the same school. Yes, talking about pandemic, I would say that it's the biggest disruption in the history of education, it is called as. There were 188 countries which closed, and the learning, it stopped initially for 1.77 billion students. But after a little bit of pause, because initially there was a lot of insecurity, grief, and so many negative emotions were there amongst the students, parents, even in the teachers. So, but after a little bit of pause, definitely we had to think about something. So, talking about India, technology was not new to India, but it was existing as just a cute technology, a smart technology, a showpiece technology, which was there in the classrooms. Again, in the classrooms means in the physical space, but it was never used for synchronous kind of classes, online kind of classes. I am reminded of a model, evolution of education model, which was given by Alan Rosen. It was in 2019, where he had written that after 10 years, there would be the teaching learning would be completely transformed, and from physical classes it will go to online classes. But I think this pandemic, it has accelerated that speed. So slowly we also explored technology, how to go in for, how to see the students in front of us and then teach them. Of course, we were sending the assignments and all that. This is how we then we got to know about the Zoom platform, then Teams, and then Google Meet and what-not. And then came the question of assessment. Then again we explored many apps, many tools which were being done. But of course, this was the academic part. But for a little while later, then we got to know, because isolation and social distancing, these were the modes to prevent this disease. So that is why the social, emotional health of the children, mental health, physical health, that was also being compromised. Then we curated some of the activities which were helping them. We can talk about those in details, but before that, I would like to know from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, so when the pandemic first struck, as I said, I was heading to school in Cairo. We were lucky though, in that we had already set ourselves up as a Google school the year before. So all of our secondary teachers, the high school teachers and students were using the virtual learning platform for communication with parents, for home learning, for project-based activities and coursework. So we were lucky there. which is why I've kind of really got the most out of this international connections as I've been working overseas, because you can bring the best of everywhere you've been to the place where you currently are. When we recruited teachers for the school in Cairo, we really like to make sure that, as well as having their teaching credentials, they were open to and available for sharing of best practice, and were keen to offer professional development to their fellow teachers, because accessing good quality professional development in Cairo for an international school was not straightforward. And so we had to build our own school up so that it offered what we wanted. And we had a large enough school that we had enough teachers to do that. So I think all of those things that had happened beforehand had prepared us. And certainly one of our principals of the American section was a technology geek. She knew everything there was to know about technology, and she would share with us, and we'd say, oh, we're not sure. But eventually she persuaded us, using the SAMA model, of how to really enhance learning through technology rather than just tacking it on at the end just for the sake of it. And we were sold, and so that's how we started to teach and to build our professional development program. So we were really lucky in that. But you're also right to say we'd suffered many of the issues that you say about social distancing and well-being and relationships and all of those things, and academic study. And we had to, as a school, make sure that we were very clear about what we were offering and communicate that provision with our parents based on the context of our values and mission as a school. And that was really important, particularly moving down the line. You talk about, discovering Zoom and Meet and Google. Lots of the other schools around who hadn't set themselves up in a Google platform the way that we had took on this Zoom, because Zoom were very lucky in the company that they were in the right place at the right time and could offer what they thought was a perfect solution. As we later found out, it wasn't a perfect solution, as there were lots of hiccups and issues. But we had to really be clear with our parents why we were not providing Zoom when we already had Google, and why we were also not doing what some of the other schools were doing, which is sitting for 7 hours online as if the teachers and students were in the classroom. And we're very clear about that. And like I said, because we stuck with our values, we had done the research, we set it into context, we were able to develop our academic and social and emotional programs as we went along over the coming months to offer a good quality provision for our students and parents.
Great, thank you so much for sharing it. And you said also, Miss Vandna, that you used also technology. Also, Miss Kat said the same thing during the pandemic. But before the pandemic, did you also use technology to nurture children's curiosity, or you have other methods at your school?
Okay. So yes, because curiosity, it is actually very, very important for the children. But again, if I talk about India, it is said that 65% of the school students have inhibition syndrome because they don't ask the questions. So it's very important, because if we talk about 21st century skills, so all the skills are of the kind where children won't be able to move forward if they don't ask questions, if they don't become independent learner, if they are not curious. So before pandemic, the first thing that we do is we try to make them keen observers. That's something very important, and especially in the outdoors, outside the classroom. In the kitchen gardens, in the lawns, bird watch, and then they plant a sapling, and then keep watching that becoming a herb or growing into a tree. So with such kind of activities, a lot of curiosity they develop. But at the time of pandemic also, in fact, we guided our parents that you make your kitchen a lab, a learning lab for the students. Take them over there, show them the spices, the condiments, the utensils, especially talking about the small children. And there are so many chemical reactions that are taking place even in our kitchen. So if you make them keen observers, according to me, that's the first thing. Then according to me, storytelling as a pedagogy, that also helps a lot, because in storytelling, every time they are curious about the next step, first of all. And then if you leave them with some open-ended questions, so that too helps a lot, because then what do you think about this? What is your opinion about this? And then there is another thing, and this is when I talk about storytelling as pedagogy, I'm talking about, across the subjects, any of the subject. Even science can be taught through storytelling. Social studies can be taught through storytelling. When coming to the languages, especially, it's, very, very useful there. Sometimes what we do, we mix the two very common stories, like Harry Potter, Alice in Wonderland. If these two stories are mixed and they are told, if Harry Potter was at the place of Alice, what do you think what he would have done? So because tapping their thinking skill, that's very, very important, by giving them some intellectual stimulus. If that comes from your side, otherwise just on technology and going online, that basically snubs their curiosity. So then answering their questions is very important by the elders. That's something very important. Normally, after the child grows 2 years or a little more, the parents, they start snubbing. Snubbing starts at home itself. Then the teachers, because they have to complete the curriculum and then all that. And if they are given some freedom to explore, and if we give voice to their ideas, I think they become curious.
That's right. It was actually the method you said, mixing different animations and cartoons for them. It was very creative. I've never heard of this. Thank you.
Yes, it's interesting you say, Dr. Vandna, about exploring, because certainly that's an avenue we've gone down to stimulate the curiosity of our students, explore and express. So exploring things experientially, like you say, whether it's in the kitchen lab or the garden lab or the bathroom lab, or these places where many different reactions can take place, and exploring different things that are obviously set up by the teacher. So they're structured by the teacher, but allow the students to look at them independently and creatively. And then from there, like you say, I can't remember the term you used, but the students feeling that they can't ask questions. If they have experienced something beforehand, then they have ideas with which to talk about and question. So even if they haven't had a full understanding of the ideas or the objectives, they've tried out the experiment and they can ask questions and say, oh, my experiment didn't work. Why did it not work? What does it? And so those questions can come out. And you're right to say about different types of questions, open-ended questions, parents and teachers answering questions, but also two other types of questions. So first of all, questions where you throw them back onto the students and say, okay, well, what do you know so far? What can we learn from that? And how can we find out more? And then also what we call the awe and wonder questions. So ones that are not really supposed to be answered, but are supposed to provide avenues for more exploration. So, why is the sky blue or whatever? Okay, let's kind of go down that avenue and explore that. And so all the different things that the students can find out for themselves. They go, wow, yeah, I wonder why. And then make those links. So you're talking about links between books, make links between the sky being blue and my coat is blue. Is it the same kind of blue? How are those colours made? And can we make the colour blue in art? And look at the colour blue in this painting. And so it goes on. And so we're not answering questions particularly, but we're asking more and more questions and really stimulating curiosity. Stimulating the imagination as well. You talked about Alice in Wonderland and combining Alice with Harry. When Harry meets Alice, I love that idea. And it reminded me of something we did pre-pandemic, because of course, post-pandemic, everything had to be done somehow through this media or via this media. But something else that we did to stimulate curiosity was we taught in role. So everybody's heard of role play and students and teachers acting out. But so, for example, our year 3 teachers chose Alice in Wonderland. They were going to read that story. And so one morning they had set up the whole of the teaching area as if it was Alice in Wonderland. They spent the whole weekend doing it. And each of the teachers was dressed in a character. And I had to go and collect the children and bring them in and said, I don't know where your teachers are, but we have some strange people here. And the teachers introduced themselves as those characters in Alice in Wonderland, and then went on to teach the whole day as those characters and never went back to being them teachers at any point. So that kind of, every time the students didn't want to go out to break, they wanted to come back in after break to see what was going to happen. And, just kind of it really stimulated their imagination and curiosity. So there's a bit a juxtaposition of when we're all together and we can be in the moment, we can set things up. But if we're online, yes, we have to use the technology, but we can still encourage students to go to the kitchen, to go outside, to read books, to...
I couldn't hear your last sentence.
Oh, sorry, did I disappear? Just saying, finding all those creative ways to stimulate imagination and really nurture curiosity, starts from the teachers and goes to the students too.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you. Technology is just a tool to help us to achieve more, but of course, teachers can do more. You know better than me that education system is not perfect, and as nothing is perfect. So if you can change many things or maybe one thing in the education system and make your ideal education system, so namely utopian education system, what is your vision for that?
Sorry, Dr. Vandna, did you want to start?
No, please.
I think that perhaps for me, what I've discovered as important since COVID is the students' well-being, the well-being of the community, really. So making sure that well-being and emotional well-being is at the heart of an education system. I mean, that is for lots of us, but I think more so now, and how to build that into the education system so that as educators, we know how to support student well-being, but also they know how to support themselves and each other. And I think coming from that, but building that sense of responsibility for themselves, but also the community. And so taking that idea and then leading it to looking at our world. What will our world be like in 5-10 years time? We thought we knew, we don't know. This COVID has taught us, we have no idea. So really, I think it's within a context of well-being and understanding and supporting of each other, how to prepare our students for this future, which we have no idea what it's going to be like. And I think it comes into what Dr. Vandna was saying about questioning and opening their minds to the possibilities. And if we can start with that aspect, we can begin to work slowly towards our vision of a utopian education system, perhaps.
So, Mobina, as you said, no education system is perfect. So I would like to, in fact, go a little philosophical in that, if you have to dream, so then dream big. So bring many changes, bring all those changes which you want to bring. So I would like to say a school where children rush to the classroom the way they rush to an amusement park, right? Every class is like another exciting ride, unique, enriching, where learning is happiness, where information and knowledge is not load on the mind, but it is light on the mind to construct new knowledge and new wisdom of their own. The children do that. Where students are turned from passengers to co-pilots. Teachers are like tailors as they customize the education. Empathy and values, social, emotional, and other life skills. School become playground for all these values. That is the kind of school I would like to see. There is one more thing I would like to say. Students are taught collaboration instead of competitiveness. There's many competitions that we are having. Instead of that, if collaboration is taught, I think that would be much, much better. And thy need is greater. So charity, that is one of the very important point I think the children should have, we should inculcate in children. And children are inspired to be independent learners so that everyone can become the best version of himself or herself. Thank you so much. This is what is my dream.
Amazing. You really explained it in the, I think, best way that I've ever heard. Great. Thank you so much. Because we are getting close to end of the session, would you like to add any last remark?
I just would like to say one thing, that parents are very important stakeholders in the school. So the parents should contribute towards the learning of the children. It is very important for them. They should not leave everything to the schools. Rather, they should become partners to the school in the journey of learning for the students. This is what I feel.
That is true. I agree with you.
I think I'd just like to say, to pick up on one of your final points about collaboration, not competition, Doctor, and that sense of, I hear so many arguments that children need competition in order to motivate them. But instead of the competition against each other, which brings kind of judgment and failure, why not this collaboration to compete against what the world is throwing at us? So how can they collaborate to beat poverty? How can they collaborate to beat climate change? How can they collaborate to beat failure and to make it work for them? And I think just this kind of us working collaboratively internationally here is also, I think, absolutely vital. Kind of some of the best practice I've learned is what I've learned from colleagues when I've worked or talked with them overseas. You either get some reassurance of what your understanding is or learn something new like I have from you today, ma'am. So thank you.
Thank you so much for all the amazing insights. It was a very great session and I really learned from it. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Thoroughly enjoyed, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, and nice knowing both of you. Thank you so much.
Yes, you too. I'm sure we'll be able to have some more international collaborations.
Yes.
So
see, every opportunity of speaking out and discussing with like-minded people gives you an opportunity